Okay, there we go. So this is the September 14th SIG scalability meeting, public recording, and I think the request was for just a quick update on the network SLO testing from Tim.
Okay, so I think like it wasn't really about testing because we still didn't define the SLIs and SLOs in the area of networking. I started this I wrote an initial proposal for SLIs and SLOs for the networking area, and the doc, like I circulated the doc with, for now, only SIG scalability and SIG network, and I did quite a lot of feedback on it. Like mostly the feedback was about how to actually define them precisely, not really about what exactly we would like to measure, mostly. Like there were some comments also about like what exactly to measure, but like those were minority of them. Like I can give a quick I'm proposing from the doc.
Did you, I was looking here in the notes for the link. Did you add this on to the existing ones or?
Oh, no, there is a new doc actually for it.
All right. If you post it here, I'll put it, if you post it in chat here, I'll put it in the notes, or if you can add it to the notes, that'd be great.
Sure. Okay, I posted. So basically like the SLIs I'm proposing, one is like for, like, I don't think it makes sense to really go into like deep details how exactly they will be defined, but because it seems like there are some back and forth on it, but like at the high level, like the things that we would like to measure is like first latency of DNS lookups, like lookups to DNS and latency for them. The second one is like about how fresh the data DNS is serving. So basically like the latency of propagation, like basically how fast a newly added backend behind some service is like also served as a served by DNS. The third thing is latency of propagating changes to service load balancer, like mechanism. So basically like how fast from like when pod is getting ready or not ready or deleted or something like that, how fast this like is actually reflected in IP tables or whatever else mechanisms we are using for the internal load balancing. There is also like for that something that the SLI that is really cloud provider specific, so probably there will be no SLO around it, like how fast we can create like external load balancers just for basically knowledge how fast it is. It's not like really about enforcing anything. And the last thing is like basically the overhead of Kubernetes networking. So at the high level, it's like how much latency to requests is added by like all this IP table stuff and all those concepts that are like Kubernetes specific comparing to pure machine to machine like latency of the request. But that's like very high level. The exact details are still being discussed, like what exactly and how exactly measure and stuff like that. So maybe we can get back in like a few weeks or something like that.
Here, request access. All right. Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to look at the doc and I was having to request access. So you probably need to keep an eye on your doc permission requests.
It's currently shared with SIG scalability and SIG network, but yeah.
Okay.
So probably if you log us, like,
if I'm logged in
from your account,
it'll probably work if I'm logged in properly.
Yeah,
right.
I think so. Yeah, but yeah, I already shared. Like, gave an access to you too.
Okay, very good. So I made a note. I made a couple of high-level notes here, and I'll get the doc in the notes as well. What's what is there something specifically motivating the networking work, or?
So basically, we know that there are some, like, for example, with many number of services that like IP tables won't work. We already know it, and we would like to more formalize, like at what scale and what users can expect from networking stack in Kubernetes. Currently, it's like, in theory, like networking can be totally down, and still like our current SLOs will be satisfied, which is not like perfect situation.
Right.
I would say it's like far from perfect.
The alternative would have been to have focused on, I don't know, Clayton likes to show up here and talk about running tens of thousands of namespaces, things like that. That may be a more narrow use case, more specific to the Red Hat to the OpenShift method of operation. So yeah,
I think like both are something, like I've heard from customers personally that they were using thousands of or even tens of thousands of services and it doesn't work for them. So it probably depends, or they would like to. So it probably depends like on what customers we actually look. So I think like both are important. I'm not sure which one is like more important.
So the current view is that it's more likely at the typical kinds of scale that networking is getting slower and slower and having scaling issues. So it's time to wrap it with some more specific scale testing to ensure that we're catching regressions.
Yeah, in general, I think it's not really, like, it is also getting slower and slower, but there is some threshold at which like IP tables stop work pretty much at all, which means like the networking is basically almost down then.
Right. Is this are you wandering into IPVS territory with IP tables at that point, or is that?
Yes, I think we start, like, I think IPVS is even in alpha in 1.8. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm sure that the code is already there, and I think they are going to announce alpha for it.
Right. So if we had
we didn't do any specific like load testing of it yet because it's pretty fresh and there are still some things that needs to be fixed in order to make it really more scalable that we did for IP tables. But yes, I think it's
right.
We are generally going to go this way.
But these SLOs would be critical to defining whether it's broken or not.
Yes.
Clearly. So okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. I'll make another couple of notes here. So, anything else on that, or I see it looks like Aaron is putting testing stuff in. I'm sure he's going to want to say something.
Hi, I'm here from the release 118, and I was wondering what's going on with our scalability tests. So in the agenda for the meeting, I have linked the GCD scale performance and GCD scale correctness jobs in the release master test grid dashboard. They've both continually been failing. I found that Sham has created an umbrella issue to track all of the issues related to the, I think, correctness failing tests.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But one other thing, there are no release 1.8 scale tests. So in the event that code thaw happens, we stop looking at the master branch and we start looking at the release 1.8 branch for our signal. So if we need to be continually looking at scalability as a signal for go, no go, we'll need to make sure there are release 1.8 equivalents of these jobs. But so let's start with what's going on with the master jobs.
I don't think our scalability jobs like the 5000 performance and correctness are actually running against the 1.8 branch. They're running just against the master. And yeah, and like for the correctness, like I've told, I've filed a few issues, and some of them, like 3 or 4 of them got fixed last week, and there's still a few failing ones. And the thing is, some of them are actually flaking. Like a few tests are actually flaking. Like they've passed once and they're not passing again. Like I did not file issues for them yet because they like those were E2Es which passed at least once. And so like I think the correctness is kind of in a good shape, the correctness test, but yeah, we're having regressions in the performance ones. Like our density test has been failing. The load test itself is passing, but density test has been failing for a few runs already. And like we recently figured out one issue. So we actually use G1 small nodes. We were using G1 small nodes for the 5000 node cluster, and which has like less memory, about 3.5 GB or something. And we were seeing a lot of events.
G1 small is like less than 2 gigabytes. It's like that.
Okay, yeah.
3.7 is like, it's like 3.75 is N1 standard one in GC.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, my bad. So yeah, so we had less memory on the node, and because of which there were and like kind of end up making the cluster reach a bad state if it's happening across all nodes, because kubelets and NPDs node problem detectors are actually sending a lot of events, like a huge amount of QPS of events and node status updates, which pretty much was thrashing the API server and like having high memory usage on the master on the API server and HCD. So like this actually helped. Increasing the node size to N1 standard 1 helped, because we did not like it helped with some of the latencies. They got better, and it also improved the resource usages of these components. But there's still one more regression I'm yet to find out. Like I've been trying to debug it for a couple of days already now. I'm trying to find out why some of the calls still have high latency, like prominently the like patch node status and delete pods are having high latencies, and that too flakily. Like some calls are having high latencies sometimes, and some other calls are having high latencies other times. So yeah.
Does this, I think you're referencing issue 51899, where API call latency shot up on large clusters. And
yes, and there's one more, which is pod startup latency shooting up, but that seemed to be a flake that happened for one run and it didn't happen for the next 2 runs. I think the last 2 runs, and like it's fine now. The pod I can probably close that issue down. Like the issue, the problem currently is only with the at least with the API latencies.
Okay.
Yep.
So I don't know, like if I'm just being really silly and looking only at the test grid, it looks like more tests failed in today's correctness run than Tuesday's correctness run. And it seems like correctness maybe isn't giving us a good signal here. If you're saying everything was fixed, but all the tests still ended up.
No, not everything was fixed. Like there were 7 flakes which I actually saw in at least 2 runs. Like back when we actually had 2 proper runs, like which failed in both of them. And there are I'm actually looking at it. And yes, there are a bunch of them which are failing. Yeah, I'll file issues for them. Yes, I just saw today's runs.
Okay.
These are from networking. Yeah, I should probably send them.
So it's okay that these are running against master right now, because where we're at in the release process, master is the authoritative signal. But once we lift code freeze, we stop looking at master and we start looking at 1.8. So I would ask you to work with Sen or somebody to make sure that the 1.8 versions of these jobs exist. If we still need to be using these for go, no go signal.
Cool. Yep. I'll change it.
And if we're still seeing this level of failure by next week, I would ask that you show up to Monday's burn down meeting, because I anticipate that's when we're going to start pinging individual SIGs for their release blocking issues. And right now, the call latency is a release blocker.
Okay, cool.
All right, that's all I have as a release representative. Thanks, guys.
And where's the? I saw some note from Jace about code slush.
Yeah, so I have yet to catch up on the release channel today, but we had yesterday. We thought that things looked good right up until we noticed that pretty much all of the upgrade tests were failing. And so we believe we've identified 1 or 2 fixes that might help with some of those upgrade tests. And we wanted to get one complete run of upgrade tests to see if we truly accomplished that or not. So we'll make a determination today whether or not we lift code freeze or not. And right now we're in a kicking it down the 24-hour, kicking it back by 24 hours. I would probably anticipate, if we feel like we don't have a great signal, if we don't do it today and we look at it again tomorrow and we're not happy with it, we'll probably leave it frozen over the weekend. But it's too early for me to say for sure right now.
All right. Well, thanks very much. Any other topics for today? If not, I think we can call it a wrap.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Take care.